On December 7, 1941, after Pearl Harbor was bombed, a huge uprising came into the country.
The President, Franklin Roosevelt, issued Executive Order 9066 on February 19, 1941. This put all people of Japanese ancestry into concentration camps.
There were a total of 10 internment camps across the United States, and 16,000 people were sent to Arkansas and were split between the two camps, Rohr and Jerome.
What camp was your family sent to, and where was it located?
We went to Arkansas. There are people that went to Jerome or Rohr, and we went to Rohr.
Do you remember what life was like in an internment camp?
Well, I was born in 1943. My oldest sister was 19, so she was a great source of information for me. She would tell me that the older siblings would find jobs in the camps, and she was a waitress in the mess hall and made about $16 a month. And my father washed pots and pans in the mess hall. And the children all went to school in the barracks, and they had extracurricular activities for the children, like music, judo, dancing. And it seemed like the children weren't affected by the life in camps as much as the parents, who were used to their independent livelihood, because they were very concerned about what's going to happen to them in the future, as well as the children's. But they will all say that there are long lines for everything, and there's no privacy in the bathrooms.
Did your family leave behind any belongings such as a house, jobs, cars, family heirlooms, or anything else you were told about?
Well, they were able to take all their clothing and personal items in a bag or suitcase, but the big things had to stay. They left the house behind, but their lawyer, they were lucky that their lawyer was able to get someone to rent the house and stay on the property in some of the small shacks.
Many other Japanese families were not as fortunate. Many of them had to sell their homes and belongings and only take a small amount of items. Were any of your family members injured at the camps? If so, in what way?
Yeah, no one in our family was injured, but my mother had a miscarriage. I guess she was pregnant on the way to camp, but the weather being so severe in Arkansas that the snow caused the floors to be very slippery. So she was carrying a box and slipped near the barracks, and she miscarried.
How was your family affected after they left the internment camp?
Well, with the help of our family lawyer, we were able to get back ownership of our house and farm. But nobody would allow my family to grow lettuce, so they had to make some kind of living. So my father and brothers raised other vegetables, and LA truckers would come pick up our vegetables, since the locals would not buy our produce. And within a few years, we were able to grow lettuce again and to sell in the open market.
After being released from camp, there were restrictions that kept Japanese Americans from going back to their hobby.
Did they have a job, a home to go to, or other family to find?
Yeah, our family, fortunately, had their farm and home to go to. And my mother would always say that everybody was so happy to be home. They would be all running over every little room, just to see what was going on. And however, we had many friends who were not as fortunate. So for approximately 2 to 4 years, we had about 6 different families living in the shack and barns, like I showed you in this picture here. And my parents were very generous to them. So it was all fun for all the children too. We all got together and played together a lot.
Did you encounter racial discrimination from white Americans when you were first released from camp?
Our families sort of tried to stay away from town for a while. My brothers had a hard time taking the bus to school because they were called a lot of different names.
What was the worst comment you received from someone?
Well, I think the most common comment was being called Japs and to go away.
When Japanese Americans returned back from camp, they faced much discrimination from white Americans.
55 years later, the Japanese Americans were finally apologized to. President Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act to compensate over 100,000 Japanese Americans who were put in the concentration camps. It gave each person $20,000.